This video is sponsored by Nintendo. What's up everyone? Alex here. I'm quite picky when it comes to narrative-driven games. So when I heard that Nintendo made a series of narrative-driven games back in the 80s called Famicom Detective Club, I started to pay attention. These games finally arrived in the West completely remade, and were widely praised for their intuitive gameplay and gripping storytelling. Following up these releases is Emio, the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club, a brand new murder mystery that uses the series' established conventions to even greater effect. Yet what amazes me about this title, and the series as a whole, is how much of it still reflects Nintendo's values in its core, despite its gruesome subject matter. But let's get a few things out of the way before we dive deeper. Emio, the Smiling Man is a narrative-driven game seemingly set in 90s Japan, co-developed by Mages and Nintendo, and published by Nintendo. Thanks to Nintendo for sending me Emio, the Smiling Man. This is the first new Famicom Detective Club released in over 35 years. In Emio, the Smiling Man, you play the role of a young 19-year-old detective who's tasked, along with the rest of his agency, to solve a series of murders, whose victims' heads are covered by a paper bag with a hideous smiling face drawn on it. You'll investigate crime scenes, learn about the urban legend behind these murders, question people of import, as well as meet some people who may or may not help your investigation. Whether or not you've played narrative-driven games before, I think it's important to describe how different Emio the Smiling Man is from other games of its type. Called visual novels, the term describes the synergy of visuals, audio, and text when conveying its stories, which often give you the responsibility of advancing the narrative. These appear in the form of important dialogue choices, which can greatly affect the course of the story. The way these choices appear in Emio the Smiling Man is unique in that it tries to intuitively mirror a detective's thought patterns whenever you question individuals. For instance, while interviewing someone, you'll be asking them questions about certain topics, with the option to continue to probe on that specific topic if you feel that they have more to say. When you've exhausted these, you'll probably want to think about what you've learned, piecing together what they've said in a manner that lets you continue the interview. Or maybe you'll want to take a close look at your interviewee, and maybe you'll notice that after talking about a specific topic, they suddenly start acting in a strange manner. Or perhaps you need to look at other things nearby that can trigger them to remember a memory hidden deep within their psyche. It's in this sense that much of your time playing Emio the Smiling Man, you'll be using these action verbs to build up your knowledge of the crime and its related ideas. And with an urban legend that seems to strangely describe the murders that occurred, you're going to want to gather as much information as possible so you can discern fact from fiction. But how do you make sense of all of this data? This is where Nintendo's kindness and generosity comes in, which arrives in the form of reviews. Simply put, reviews are quizzes that check your understanding of the story, which also serves as recaps to what just transpired within the chapter. Sometimes it'll be in the form of a multiple choice question. Sometimes it'll be in the form of choosing the right person or phrase. And even sometimes it'll even ask you to type in what you think the answer is. And keep in mind that while the game never truly penalizes you for making mistakes, apart from disappointing your coworker Ayumi, who you also happen to like, the road to discovering the identity of the serial killer is a pretty linear experience, meaning that the game won't let you fail at all. What prolongs this revelation will be how accurate you are with selecting the right action verbs to advance the plot. And you'll notice that when you properly immerse yourself into this world, by thinking about how you want to process the various pieces of information you want to uncover, you start to notice that these action verbs are actually pretty intuitive. What's even more amazing about this is that these systems were merely lifted from the original games that were originally released 35 years ago, which says a lot about the timeless nature of how these choices function. Compare this to other games that have specific dialogue choices that sometimes don't reflect what you actually want to say. These action verbs are descriptive enough to use to mine new information from your interviewees. There's a beauty in its simplicity, which I came to appreciate as I continuously unraveled the game's mysteries. What also impresses me about the game are the animations that bring its memorable characters to life. I spent a good chunk of time trying to figure out if the game's characters were rendered in full 3D or just cleverly animated in 2D, as each transition felt really good, despite the noticeable fading in and out of body parts, which didn't really bother me one bit. There's a quality to Emio's presentation that feels very much like you're playing an anime, and that's the kind of novelty that I'll never get tired of. Every single character in Emio the Smiling Man is voice acted in Japanese, and the game features English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish translations. But if there's one criticism I'd lob at Emio the Smiling Man, is that I think it would have been cool to have English voice acting, especially for folks like myself who often like walking away from the screen and still want to understand the information being conveyed through its spoken language. And I have a couple of other things to admit to you, dear viewer, which may shock you. I never played the other two Famicom Detective Club games for Nintendo Switch that were released before Emio the Smiling Man. But as I closed this chapter in the Famicom Detective Club, I couldn't help but think that I should go back to play those games. That's because Emio the Smiling Man is really that good. I'll be blunt and say that other visual novels tend to put me to sleep. But the game's mystery, coupled with its great writing and, as far as I can tell, great Japanese voice acting, this narrative-driven mystery immersed me in a way that no other visual novel has. And when you finally reveal the identity of the Smiling Man themselves, it becomes this huge moment for you. Because everyone, the game, Nintendo, and everyone in the story seeking justice, is all rooting for you to unravel this gruesome yet truly captivating mystery. Check out Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club by using my link in the description of this video.